A gente está aqui no stand do Lords of Fallen. A gente vai falar um pouquinho com o Thomas, que é o produtor executivo do jogo. Can you give us a brief summary of what is the game about?
Lords of Fallen is an action RPG, which means that the game is pretty much a combination of what everybody knows and loves about RPG, which is interesting world, interesting storyline, a lot of cool characters. And on top of that, and probably the most important thing about this game and the most prominent feature of this game is the action part, which is combat, character development, and complex, challenging, but very, very rewarding kind of fighting mechanics, fighting style, and fighting elements of the game.
Can you give us a few details about the protagonist and the story behind it?
Okay, so here's what happened. Here's the legend that actually drives everything that happens in the world of Lords of the Fallen. A couple thousand years ago, people fought. They had to fight their god. It was a very bad god. They defeated him and they entrapped him under the ground, and they also defeated his army, his demonic army. And because of that, well, it's quite an achievement what they've done, and because of that they believe they're capable of doing extremely big, spectacular and epic things. And they came up with an idea that it will be possible to completely wipe out evil from human nature. They actually made up a codex of bad things that any human can do, the sins, let's say, capital sins. And anybody who gets caught doing them is marked, branded and tattooed across the face with the name of that sin. They don't want to kill people because that's evil, and they're steering clear of evil, and that's how it goes. They're marking anybody who committed these sins with a tattoo so that he becomes an outcast for the rest of his lifetime. And here's an interesting part. When the game starts, the army of the fallen god, the demons, or the roger as we call them, they're back. Nobody knows why. They started to reappear, and it's only natural for humans, for the humanity, as I've described them to you right now, to think, okay, we won't fight them, they're evil, we're not going to touch them, but let's find the most evil human on earth and let's send him against it. Let's fight evil with evil. And that's what they do, and that's where our hero Harken steps in, because he's the guy who has committed the most and the biggest of deadly sins on earth. So I don't want to lie to you, he's a bad person. He's not a guy who is, happy and whatnot. He's probably never going to have family nor friends, but what is important about him, he's capable, he can stand against these demons, and he can do what it requires to take the task on.
Due to the recent success of Dark Souls, many people can relate this game to Dark Souls because of the RPG nature and fantasy. So what can fans of Dark Souls see in Lords of Fallen?
I think there will be a lot of things that they love about Souls series that they can find in Lords of the Fallen, but our main goal while approaching development, while developing and implementing Lords of the Fallen, while creating that game, was to make sure that even though we do believe it could be the same amount, the same level of challenge in Lords of the Fallen, there are still elements that we could try to at least reduce, and the game would be less frustrating for the mainstream audience. We try to make sure that we find and identify things that do not deprive the player of the challenge of the game itself, and still make the game slightly more accessible for some of the mainstream players. I think the challenge and reward and the sense of satisfaction is going to be quite similar in Lords of the Fallen, but at the same time we think the feeling of satisfaction that you get after overcoming a challenge in games like this is so extremely good. It feels so great to overcome that challenge that we just dream that we could deliver that to more people than that.
that people that are not really into the RPG games will like Lords of the Fallen?
I definitely think so, because Lords of the Fallen is RPG only by part of its definition. The other part is action game. So I think a lot of people who really like tactical games, for example, that's why I believe that fans of games like this will look at Lords of the Fallen not through the lens of it being RPG, but through the lens of it being a tactical action game.
What about localization? We know that in Brazil, localization is a very important issue. Do you think about localizing to Portuguese?
Yes, we do. It's not the moment for me to confirm 100% yes or no, because I'm not actually totally in charge of that part of the game. So I would need to get back to people who, who work in that and ask them. But as far as I know, as far as I am aware, we are planning to localize the game into Portuguese as well.
Anything else you'd like to add about the game?
Yeah, I would love everybody to try out if Lords of the Fallen is something they are looking for. This is our dream. We would love people to see whether it's something they can actually see as a challenging game of their type. And probably it's worth mentioning that the game is coming out on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One fall this year. We definitely don't want to be one of these games that slips into 2015, so it's fall this year.
I see you heard me.